Deciding who to build a life with is the heaviest choice you will ever make. It dictates your environment, finances, and mental health for decades. You are committing your most finite resources, your time, your emotional capacity, and your capital to a single human being. Given the absolute scale of that investment, the way we screen potential partners is surprisingly flawed. This matrix outlines the three main systems people use to evaluate a match. Trusting your gut intuition requires zero effort, but it relies heavily on your own unexamined biases. On the other end, clinical couples therapy yields highly accurate behavioral data, but demands thousands of dollars and months of hard emotional labor. Millions of active daters are looking for a shortcut, a third option promising the accuracy of therapy with the low friction of a gut feeling.
Because we desperately want certainty in high-stakes romance, we are highly susceptible to any system that offers a fast, objective answer to the terrifying question of whether a relationship will survive. To find that certainty, a massive audience has turned to the Bazi 4 pillars, a 1,000-year-old Chinese method built on element theory and exact birth data. Today, daters take the specific year, month, day, and time their partner was born and plug it into modern applications. These apps run the ancient rule set and instantly spit out specific compatibility metrics. Historically, people use this framework for highly practical settings, negotiating marriages, forging business partnerships, and executing major life transitions. We are setting aside the debate over astrology's mysticism to focus strictly on the interface. The goal is to analyze if utilizing an elemental personality framework actually predicts long-term emotional success, and pinpoint exactly when relying on it becomes a psychological trap. This flowchart breaks down how compatibility apps process information. Data enters the system and splits into two outputs. The first path crunches your elemental pillars, delivering a quantitative harmony score. It gives a fast, digestible percentage telling you exactly how compatible you are. The trade-off of relying on this simple number is severe confirmation bias. If the app hands a new couple a 95% compatibility score, the resulting euphoria can blind them to actual toxic behavioral red flags. They ignore reality because the data assures them they are a perfect match. On the flip side, an artificially low score injects immediate doubt into an otherwise healthy relationship. A couple might begin searching for friction that doesn't exist, simply because the screen labeled the match as a failure. Firm. Human dynamics involve thousands of daily micro-negotiations. Reducing that vast complexity to a single numerical score trades emotional accuracy for dangerous instant gratification. The second output of the system is qualitative. Instead of numbers, it gives you personality descriptions. To understand why these feel so terrifyingly accurate, you have to look at the Barnum or Forer effect. Astrological archetypes use language that sounds highly specific to the individual, but is actually universally relatable. If an app tells you, "You are nurturing, but often feel taken for granted," you immediately agree, because nearly everyone feels that way at times. This triggers an identity affirmation loop. When a user reads a profile that flatters their self-image or validates a hidden struggle, their brain rewards them with a rush of dopamine. The Bazi system is engineered to provide this exact validation. It describes both partners in ways that make them feel deeply seen, acknowledged, and understood by the framework. Early in dating, couples frequently confuse these two sensations. Experiencing the app's accuracy together artificially inflates their perceived sense of intimacy. The system describes broad human nature. Mistaking that accuracy for a magical, predestined connection between two specific individuals leads to skewed relationship decisions. The qualitative side of this system possesses real-world value, specifically in the relationship context cards that outline potential friction. The Bazi method might diagnose a couple with an elemental clash, say a wood day master clashing with an earth day master. Culturally, this is a metaphorical way to describe conflicting behavioral patterns, like rigidity versus stubbornness. When couples try to discuss their flaws directly, the communication often shatters. Raw, unprotected emotional critique instantly triggers defensive walls. The Bazi elemental framework reworks this interaction by shifting the focus. It gives couples a way to discuss sensitive traits without pointing fingers. Instead of saying,
you are aggressively stubborn, a partner can say, "That's your yang metal element showing up right now." By attributing the personal flaw to a neutral third-party structural system, the sting of personal blame disappears. The psychological utility of this method lies in its role as a communication Trojan horse, allowing couples to safely analyze their conflicts. To safely extract that communication value, users need a high baseline of emotional intelligence. You must translate phrases like clashing pillars into actionable, real-world compromises about how you share finances or divide household labor. The primary risk of adopting this framework is that it can enable a total lack of personal accountability. In toxic scenarios, individuals use the archetype to refuse personal growth. They act poorly and then claim they cannot change, arguing that their bad behavior is simply a permanent feature of their element. Massive crowds comb through external charts and forecasts looking for answers to their interpersonal problems, while avoiding the internal psychological work required to fix them. Direct. Use the framework as a mirror to reflect behavior rather than a shield to defend it. This scorecard maps out exactly how different demographics should deploy this tool in their real lives. If you are the relationship builder, an established couple already committed to each other, you have the ideal use case. Use the relationship context breakdowns purely as a neutral vocabulary. Use it as a designated framework to safely navigate the friction you already know exists. If you are the analytical optimizer, someone who is skeptical but curious about human psychology, you should focus on the elements. Treat the 5 elements like an MBTI personality profile. Use them to better understand how a partner processes emotion and stress, not to predict if the relationship will survive the year. For both of these groups, the value rests on the tool's ability to facilitate structured, detached conversation. There is a final demographic, the high-stakes evaluator. If you are actively dating and searching for a life partner, the rules are different. You should never use a quantitative harmony score as a primary screening tool to accept or reject a new partner. Relying on the profile will trigger the Barnum effect. It will create a false sense of intimacy that can easily override your logical evaluation of how a date actually treats you. The predictive power of these methods stems from the psychology of the interface, how it forces us to articulate our own flaws. You can look at the astrological data to start a conversation, but when making the biggest investment of your life, you must always trust the reality of your partner's actions over the certainty of an algorithm.